This venue that is there at the center, it has seen a lot of iconic moments, be it in the past or be it in the modern era. The first tied test, Gabba Ka Ghamand Part 1, Gabba Ka Ghamand Part 2, that was broken. Shamar Joseph and Rishabh Pant for this modern era have redefined the Gabba in a lot of ways. But now, this iconic venue, which has been part of so many opening seasons for Australia, 49 years to be precise, if you include 2024 and 2025, now it may no longer be a venue. The Gabba might face an uncertain future, and maybe going forward from 2026, 2027 onwards, it might not even be used. Why? Olympics 2032 and the other host of challenges that is coming up at this point in time. Because over the last couple of days, when you've seen Perth has been locked in until 2030, it will host one of the tests. Adelaide has been locked in until 2030 for hosting the pre-Christmas test. Melbourne and Sydney anyway are iconic venues because they'll host the Boxing Day test and the New Year test. But the Gabba has only gotten a 2-year hosting agreement with Cricket Australia. Now in 2024, India versus Australia and the Border Gavaskar Trophy, then the Ashes test of 2025-2026. After that, they will not host any tests. 49 consecutive test seasons at the Gabba. The last time a test was not played at the Gabba was 1976. After that, from 77 onwards until the Ashes test of 2025, you're going to see 49 consecutive seasons. But now, venue faces uncertain future after 2026 for a whole host of reasons, but the prime one is the Olympics. Now, what was the initial plan? The Gabba was going to be redeveloped looking at the fact that Brisbane is going to host the 2032 Olympics. So the venue was going to be demolished, it was going to be built from scratch, a new high-purpose venue was going to be built. But now, that rebuilding has been ditched. Why is that? High costs and usability during renovation. Now, these are the two things, especially the high costs associated with the renovation bit, has given the Queensland government a lot of cold feet. Now they are saying the Gabba might be unusable also. Uncertainty around infrastructure planning and development ahead of 2032 Olympics to impact business. That is the open letter that Queensland Cricket has written. Now at this point in time, a lot of uncertainty. You have to understand that the Gabba has had a multiple, if you look at it, relaying at this point. At one point in the 90s and the 80s, there was also a dog cart where dog racing would happen. But then it was used for other multi-purpose things also. The Gabba is not used that much, maybe to a certain extent AFL. But then cricket is the primary source in Gabba that faces an uncertain future. There are new challenges also. Because in 2029, a recent photo emerged where Tasmania could host a new indoor stadium with multi-purpose facilities. Now, if Tasmania pulls that off, there's rugby, there's AFL, there's cricket, all in that one-purpose stadium, then the Gabba faces an existential threat. Gabba working ends in 2030 and there is uncertainty over long-term AFL deal. Now, the Gabba's shelf life, if you look at it, before it goes into redevelopment, is until 2030. It's already been labelled a tired stadium. The infrastructure has not been up to date with it, and that's why 2030 it was expected to end, but now from 2026 onwards it faces an uncertain future. Now, they are trying to secure the venue through a long-term AFL deal, Aussie Rules Football. But whether that falls through is another thing altogether. Plus, Cricket Australia might want to push in some other new venues that are there in and around Queensland, like for example Gold Coast, there is Allan Border Field, Townsville, there's Mackay also. Most venues have hosted cricket, if you look. Allan Border Field has hosted a lot of matches for the Women's Big Bash League, also the BBL. Also Townsville has hosted a lot of under-19 cricket as well. Cairns is there, Mackay is there. Mackay, by the way, hosted the 1992 World Cup venue, but then it's been not played since then. But there is a slight bit of hope. Cricket Australia has said that can't imagine test schedule without Gabba. because it's been there as the venue for 49 years. Now, if it doesn't feature, then what's going to happen with Cricket Australia? But Alan Border, one of Australia's iconic figures, has clearly stated you have to build a new purpose stadium, because he said build new 60,000 seat stadium for rugby, cricket, Aussie rules and Olympics, and the Gabba becomes housing. Victoria Park is one of the major venues that's been proposed in Brisbane, where Alan Border wants a new 60,000 seater stadium. Now, if you look at the general trend that is there in Australia, most stadiums are becoming high purpose and multi-purpose stadiums for various sports. Look at Optus. Optus Perth hosts football, it hosts rugby, and it also hosts cricket. Look at Adelaide. Look at Melbourne. Brisbane now might be falling into that rank. Sydney used to host the AFL and rugby. Not many matches happen in Sydney at the Sydney Cricket Ground. It happens at the Olympic Stadium that happens. So, Gabba might join the list of, okay, maybe can it be upgraded to multi-sporting venue? Perhaps not. So, a new stadium has been proposed to be built. But if the Gabba faces an uncertain future and they say no more tests and no more matches at the Gabba, then it will go the Waka way. The Waka in Perth was considered the most iconic venue for nearly 40 years, but then with the stadium not getting the necessary upgradation, this has meant that all matches will go to Optus. Gabba too faces a similar situation. Will it escape, or do you think the Olympics planning will ensure that one of the most iconic cricket grounds in the world is now reduced to just being a sideshow? Only time will tell. Thank you so much, folks, for joining us for this video. Subscribe to Sports Today for all the latest news and analysis.